Hi there.
Hey, Jody, how are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Very well. Thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure.
So, Jody, first of all, when you hear, when you first heard about his story, how challenging was it for you to, to keep your hope in humanity alive?
Well, he has a lot to teach us. Muhammadu had a lot to teach us about that. I mean, that really is the big question of the movie is like, how did he do it? How did he be subjected to all this fear and terror and manage to keep his humanity, manage to not let them break him of his humanity. And not only that, but to find joy and humor and affection and, openness and vulnerability and all of those things. And I'm sure he would say that a lot of it was his faith that kept him alive. And that kept him believing romantically that there was a higher purpose. So I feel like he has a lot to teach us, that's really what he has to teach us.
Right. What's also incredible about him is his willingness to forgive. Even stuff that probably most of us would never be able to forgive, not even a glimpse of it. What will be your definition of forgiveness? What do you think? How important it is to forgive? In order to move on.
Yeah, I mean, forgiveness doesn't mean that you forget, and it doesn't mean that the damage is erased, and that you. But it means that you don't hold that those resentments aren't guiding you in your life and helping, making you make choices. So it's trying to figure out how to be able to move forward, really, and to not have those resentments and anger paralyze you. And Muhammadu needed to move forward. He needed to move forward with his life and be somebody of purpose. And he didn't want to live. He didn't want to be broken by that dominating spirit.
And speaking of anger, it's really amazing that because he will have every single right to be angry. So and he's not, and that makes me feel very bad, for every single time that I become angry for silly stuff. So I
Yeah.
was wondering, having worked on this movie, did that teach you in a way, to feel less angry about superficial stuff?
I don't know, but I think that that's what making movies, writing a book, making a painting, that's what art can do, is that it's a part of a healing process. It allows you
Yeah.
to express complex feelings and thoughts and to work them out. And I think the complexity of his character, the complexity of these characters and of this movie is really helpful because, it's not just a black and white film. It's not just, Orange Man bad and everybody else, good.
Yeah.
It really looks into how we got here.
And I really have to bring up a scene that brought up memories of mine, actually. It was actually the scene, when Nancy and Stu are having a beer together at a place. And then Nancy
Yes.
says something like, well, in the future, that will be, a touristic attraction. And, I remember places like that, So I was wondering, do you remember, a precious place that meant a lot to you, and then it kind of lost its magic with time because it was turned into something that you don't know anymore?
Well, yeah, I suppose Times Square, right? So New York City, basically all of New York City is when it got kind of renovated and condoized. It doesn't mean that that wasn't a good thing to happen. It just means like you have a wistfulness for the person that you were in those days. I do think though that that line where they talk about like someday people will be going through here and they'll be looking at this as a museum and they'll have their drinks and their and they'll be looking in the prison and they'll ask themselves, how did we get here? I think that idea is kind of interesting, is that 20 years from now, when we're going to look back on this experience, and we're going to look back on, World War II, for example, and we're going to look back on Japanese internment camps, and we'll look back on, the Jim Crow South, and ask ourselves, how did we get here? That process of truth and reconciliation is really important. And we need to be able to examine our motivations and do that kind of truth and reconciliation process in order to really understand, to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. Jody, thank you so much for your time today. All the best for your movie and see you next time.
All right, take care.